What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com.
Here are my DFS picks for MLB Tuesday, September 21st.
These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button
And hit that bell icon.
so you don't miss our new videos.
In this video, I'm going to go over my top DFS picks for today's MLB slate. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Oh, and good news, guys. Make sure to stay tuned to the very end of this video because we removed the box that was popping up and blocking the lineup. So now you can see a full lineup using these picks that we made in this video if you stay to the very end. Okay, guys, we have an 11-game slate tonight, so let's take a look at the pitcher position. I like Alek Manoah with an 8% pitching advantage over the Tampa Bay Rays. Alek Manoah is only giving up a .477 OPS versus righties, and he's facing 5 righties here tonight. On top of that, and the reason that I love this pick is because the Rays have only hit 2 of his last 36 pitches. That's a .056 batting average. So he's off to a fantastic start versus the Rays, and he's $9,600 FanDuel salary and $100 less on DraftKings. Projected at 31.4 fantasy points here tonight. He's averaging 32 fantasy points per game on the season, and he scored 64, 20, and 3 fantasy points in his last 3 games. So there's a little bit of risk here, but I just love the splits, and that pitcher versus batter matchup is phenomenal. So he's projected at 31.4 fantasy points here tonight. He has an ERA of 3.39. His record is 6-2 on the season, pitching an average of 91 pitches per game. So I like Alek Manoah here versus the Tampa Bay Rays. Okay, let's take a look at the catcher first base position. I like Ty France with a 20% batting advantage over a low salary pitcher, Paul Blackburn. Ty France is batting 20% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .896 OPS versus righties, and Paul Blackburn is giving up a .942 OPS versus righties. So Ty France is only 1 for 5 versus Blackburn. That one hit was a double, but the splits are good here, and Ty France is only $3,100 FanDuel salary. Now he is $2,000 more on DraftKings, so I love that FanDuel price. Projected at 13.2 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 10 fantasy points per game on the season. He's been on fire, scoring 10, 22, and 15 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Paul Blackburn here. I like Ty France here versus Paul Blackburn. I also like Yuli Gurriel with a 38% batting advantage over a low salary pitcher, Packy Naughton. Yuli Gurriel is batting 23% better versus lefty pitchers, batting a .890 OPS versus lefties, and Packy is pitching 15% worse to righties as he does his other pitches, so he pitches his worst ball to righty batters, giving up a .786 OPS versus righties. Now there's no at-bats versus Packy yet, and Yuli Gurriel is $3,000 FanDuel salary, $1,100 more on DraftKings, projected at 8.7 fantasy points here tonight, but I think he can score 10 fantasy points or more in this one, and he's averaging 11 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 15, 9, and 0 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Yuli Gurriel here versus Packy Naughton.
Before I continue with the picks, I'm excited today because we added a new contest for everyone watching.
If you want to enter the drawing for $25 PayPal,
all you need to do is like this video, hit that subscribe button, and make a quick comment below to be entered into the drawing. We'll reply to a random comment and let you know that you won.
And we'll send you $25 PayPal.
So it's that easy, and we pick a new winner every Saturday and announce them in our video. So get your comment in now so I can add another entry for you.
Okay, let's take a look at the second base position. I like Ketel Marte, batting against a low-salary pitcher, Jesse Chavez. Ketel Marte is batting a .691 OPS versus righties, so it's not his strong hand, but Jesse Chavez pitches his worst ball versus switch hitters, 22% worse than his other pitches, giving up a .938 OPS versus switch hitters. And Ketel Marte is 2 for 6 with a .333 batting average and a 1 OPS versus Chavez. He's $3,500 FanDuel salary, $1,700 more on DraftKings, projected at 10.6 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 11 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 22, 6, and 9 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Ketel Marte here versus Jesse Chavez. Okay, now here's a value play for you. I like Luis Arraez with a 59% batting advantage over a low-salary pitcher, Alec Mills. Luis Arraez is batting 26% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .785 OPS versus righties. And Alec Mills, he pitches 33% worse to lefties as he does righties, giving up a .891 OPS versus lefties. Now there's no at-bats versus Mills yet, but I like this pick because Luis Arraez is only $2,300 FanDuel salary, $1,200 more on DraftKings, projected at 11.1 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 8 fantasy points per game on the season. Now he's been in a slump, scoring 0, 0, and 3 fantasy points in his last 3 games. But the splits are good here tonight and the price is right, so I like Luis Arraez here versus Alec Mills. Okay, let's take a look at the third base position. I like Isaiah Kiner-Falefa with a 39% batting advantage over Jordan Montgomery. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa is batting 12% better versus lefty pitchers, batting a .749 OPS versus lefties. And Jordan Montgomery, he pitches his worst ball versus righty batters, 28% worse than his other pitches, giving up a .761 OPS versus righties. Now there's no at-bats versus Montgomery yet, but Isaiah Kiner-Falefa is only $3,000 FanDuel salary and only $300 more on DraftKings, so I love that DraftKings price. Projected at 9.7 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 9 fantasy points per game on the season, and he's been on fire, scoring 16, 28, and 6 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Isaiah Kiner-Falefa here versus Jordan Montgomery.
Real quick guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the Position Optimizer, where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new Player Trends tool, where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups.
I also like Matt Chapman with a 9% batting advantage over Marco Gonzalez. Matt Chapman is batting a .734 OPS versus lefties, and Marco Gonzalez, he pitches his worst ball versus righty batters, 12% worse than his other pitches, giving up a .739 OPS versus righties. Now, I like this pick because Matt Chapman is 13 for 32 with a .406 batting average and a 1.094 OPS versus Gonzalez. He's $3,500 FanDuel salary, $1,000 more on DraftKings, projected at 10.2 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 10 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 3, 28, and 10 fantasy points in his last 3 games. So I like Matt Chapman here versus Marco Gonzalez. Okay, who do we have at the shortstop position? I like Fernando Tatis Jr. with a small batting advantage here over Kevin Gausman. Fernando Tatis Jr. is batting 16% better versus righty pitchers, batting a 1 OPS versus righties, and Kevin Gausman is giving up a .601 OPS versus righties. But I like this pick because Fernando Tatis Jr. is 5 for 11, batting a .455 batting average and a 1.5 OPS versus Gausman. 2 of those 5 hits are for home runs. He's $4,300 FanDuel salary, $2,000 more on DraftKings, projected at 12.8 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 15 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 7, 3, and 0 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I think he's due for a big game here. So I like Fernando Tatis Jr. here versus Kevin Gausman. Now I also like Corey Seager with a 16% batting advantage over Antonio Senzatella. Corey Seager is batting 5% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .895 OPS versus righties, and Antonio Senzatella, he pitches his worst ball versus lefty batters, 11% worse than his other pitches, giving up a .795 OPS versus lefties. Corey Seager is 10 for 21, batting a .476 batting average and a 1.542 OPS versus Senzatella. 3 of those 10 hits are for home runs. So Corey Seager, that's why I like this pick. He's got an excellent batter versus pitcher matchup. Now he is $4,000 FanDuel salary, but he's only $600 more on DraftKings, and he's projected at 11.2 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 11 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 35, 0, and 9 fantasy points in the last 3 games. And Vegas thinks this is going to be a high-scoring game. 11 runs scored in this game. That's their over-under. So I like Corey Seager here versus Antonio Senzatella. Now, don't forget about Xander Bogaerts. I also like him tonight. But moving on to the outfield position, I like Mookie Betts. This is my home run hitter, my dong of the day. I like Mookie Betts with a 17% batting advantage over Antonio Senzatella. Mookie Betts is batting 28% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .973 OPS versus righties, and Antonio Senzatella is giving up a .707 OPS versus righties. Now I like this pick because Mookie Betts is 5 for 11, batting a .455 batting average and a 1.591 OPS versus Senzatella. 2 of those 5 hits are for home runs. He's $4,100 FanDuel salary, $2,300 more on DraftKings, projected at 14 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 12 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 12, 7, and 6 fantasy points in his last 3 games. And we know Vegas thinks this is going to be a high-scoring game. 11 runs scored in this game, so it's a good game to stack. So I like Mookie Betts here versus Antonio Senzatella. Now I also like Yordan Alvarez, but the other guy that I like, if you want to stack this Colorado Rockies Dodgers game, take a look at Charlie Blackmon with a 2% batting advantage over Julio Urias. Charlie Blackmon is batting 11% better versus lefty pitchers, batting a .832 OPS versus lefties, and Julio Urias, he's giving up a .569 OPS versus lefties. But the reason I like this pick is because Charlie Blackmon is 7 for 18, batting a .389 batting average and a 1.011 OPS versus Urias. He's $3,800 FanDuel salary, $900 more on DraftKings, projected at 9.9 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 9 fantasy points per game on the season. And Charlie Blackmon's been heating up, scoring 15, 10, and 7 fantasy points in the last 3 games. And we know Vegas thinks there's going to be 11 runs scored in this game. So I'm going to find some value plays and then stack up some of these heavy hitters in this game. So I like Charlie Blackmon here versus Julio Urias.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smickety smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.